Chapter 4, Section 2. What shapes an ecosystem? If you ask an ecologist where a particular organism lives, that person might say the organism lives in the Caribbean coral reef, or in an Amazon rainforest, or in a desert in the American Southwest. Those answers provide a kind of ecological address, like a street address in a city or town. An ecological address, however, tells you more than where an organism lives. It tells you about the climate the organism experiences and what neighbors it is likely to have. But what shapes the ecosystem in which an organism lives? Biotic and abiotic factors. Ecosystems are influenced by a combination of biological and physical factors. The biological influences on organisms within an ecosystem are called biotic factors. These include the entire living cast of characters with which an organism might interact, including birds, trees, mushrooms, and bacteria. In other words, the ecological community. Biotic factors that influence a bullfrog, for example, might include the tiny plants and algae it eats as a tadpole, the herons that eat the adult frog, and other species that compete with the bullfrog for food or space. Physical or non-living factors that shape ecosystems are called abiotic factors. For example, the climate of an area includes abiotic factors such as temperature, precipitation, and humidity. Other abiotic factors are wind, nutrient availability, soil type, and sunlight. For example, the bullfrog in Figure 4-4 is affected by abiotic factors such as the availability of water and the temperature of the air. Together, biotic and abiotic factors determine the survival and growth of an organism and the productivity of the ecosystem in which the organism lives. The area where an organism lives is called its habitat. A habitat includes both biotic and abiotic factors. The niche. If an organism's habitat is its address, its niche is its occupation. A niche is the full range of physical and biological conditions in which an organism lives and the way in which the organism uses those conditions. For instance, part of the description of an organism's niche includes its place in the food web. Another part of the description might include the range of temperatures that the organism needs to survive. The combination of biotic and abiotic factors in an ecosystem often determines the number of different niches in that ecosystem. A niche includes the type of food an organism eats, how it obtains this food, and which other species use the organism as food. For example, a mature bullfrog catches insects, worms, spiders, small fish, or even mice. Predators such as herons, raccoons, and snakes prey on bullfrogs. The physical conditions that the bullfrog requires to survive are part of its niche. Bullfrogs spend their lives in or near the water of ponds, lakes, and slow-moving streams. A bullfrog's body temperature varies with that of the surrounding water and air. As winter approaches, bullfrogs burrow into the mud of pond or stream bottoms to hibernate. The bullfrog's niche also includes when and how it reproduces. Female bullfrogs lay their eggs in water during the warmer months of the year. The young frogs, called tadpoles, live in the water until their legs and lungs develop. As you will see, No two species can share the same niche in the same habitat. However, different species can occupy niches that are very similar. For instance, the tree species of North American warblers, shown in Figure 4-5, live in the same spruce trees but feed at different elevations and in different parts of those trees. These species are similar, yet each warbler has a different niche within the forest. Community interactions. When organisms live together in ecological communities, they interact constantly. These interactions help shape the ecosystem in which they live. Community interactions, such as competition, predation, and various forms of symbiosis, can powerfully affect an ecosystem. Competition. Competition occurs when organisms of the same or different species attempt to use an ecological resource in the same place at the same time. The term resource refers to any necessity of life, such as water, nutrients, light, food, or space. In a forest, for example, broad level trees such as oak or hickory may compete for sunlight by growing tall, spreading out their leaves and blocking the sunlight from shorter trees. Similarly, two species of lizards in a desert might compete by attempting to eat the same type of insect. Direct competition in nature often results in a winner and a loser, with the losing organism failing to survive, a fundamental rule in ecology. The competitive exclusion principle states that no two species can occupy the same niche in the same habitat at the same time. Look again at the distribution of the warblers in Figure 4-5. Can you see how this distribution avoids direct competition among the different warbler species? Predation. An interaction in which one organism captures and feeds on another organism is called predation. The organism that does the killing and eating is called the predator, and the food organism is the prey. Cheetahs are active predators with claws and sharp teeth. Their powerful legs enable them to run after prey. Other predators, such as the anglerfishes, are more passive. An anglerfish has a fleshy appendage that resembles a fishing lure, which it uses to draw unsuspecting prey close to its mouth. Symbiosis. Any relationship in which two species live closely together is called symbiosis, which means living together. Biologists recognize that three main classes of symbiotic relationships in nature: mutualism, communalism, and parasitism. Examples of these three symbiotic relationships are shown in Figure 4-6. Mutualism. In mutualism, both species benefit from the relationship. Many flowers, for example, depend on certain species of insects to pollinate them. The flowers provide the insects with the food in the form of nectar, pollen, or other substances, and the insects help the flowers reproduce. Commensalism. In commensalism, one member of the association benefits and the other is neither helped nor harmed. Small marine animals called barnacles, for example, often attach themselves to a whale's skin. The barnacles perform no known service for the whale, nor do they harm it, yet the barnacles benefit from the constant movement of the water past the swimming whale, because the water carries food particles to them. Parasitism. In parasitism, one organism lives on or inside another organism and harms it. The parasite obtains all or part of its nutritional needs from the other organism called the host. Generally, parasites weaken but do not kill their host, which is usually larger than the parasite. Tapeworms, for example, are parasites that live in the intestines of mammals. Fleas, ticks, and lice live on the bodies of mammals, feeding on the blood and skin of the host. Ecological succession. On the time scale of a human life, some ecosystems may seem stable. The appearance of stability is often misleading because ecosystems and communities are always changing. Sometimes an ecosystem changes in response to an abrupt disturbance, such as a severe storm. At other times, change occurs as a more gradual response to natural fluctuations in the environment. Ecosystems are constantly changing in response to natural and human disturbances. As an ecosystem changes, older inhabitants gradually die out and new organisms move in, causing further changes in the community. This series of predictable changes that occurs in a community over time is called ecological succession. Sometimes succession results from slow changes in the physical environment. A sudden natural disturbance from human activities, such as clearing a forest, may also be the cause of succession. Primary succession. On land, succession that occurs on surfaces where no soil exists is called primary succession. For example, primary succession occurs on the surfaces formed as volcanic eruptions build new islands or cover the land with lava rock or volcanic ash. Primary succession also occurs on bare rock exposed when glaciers melt. In Figure 4-7, you can follow the stages of primary succession after a volcanic eruption. When primary succession begins, there is no soil, just ash and rock. The first species to populate the area are called pioneer species. The pioneer species on the volcanic rocks are often lichen. And lichens is made up of a fungus and an alga and can grow on bare rock. The lichens grow, they help break up the rocks. When they die, the lichens add organic material to help form soil in what plants can grow. Secondary succession. Components of an ecosystem can be changed by natural events, such as fires, or by human activities, such as farming. These changes may affect the ecosystem in predictable or unpredictable ways. When the disturbance is over, community interactions tend to restore the ecosystem to its original condition through secondary succession. For example, secondary succession occurs after wildfires burn woodlands and when land cleared for farming is abandoned. Figure 4-8 shows 3 trees regrowing after a wildfire. In fact, fires set by lightning occur in many ecosystems, and some plants are so adapted to periodic fires that their seeds won't sprout unless exposed to fire. Ecologists used to think that succession in a given area always proceeded through predictable stages to produce the same stable climax community. Old growth forests in the Pacific Northwest, for example, were considered climax communities. but natural disasters, climate change, and human activities, such as an introduction of non native species, profoundly affect these communities today. Healthy ecosystems usually recover from natural disturbances because of the way components of the system interact. Ecosystems may or may not recover from long term human caused disturbances. Succession in a marine ecosystem. Succession can occur in any ecosystem, even if even in the permanently dark deep ocean. In 1987, scientists found an unusual community of organisms living on the remains of a dead whale in the deep waters of the coast of Southern California. At first, ecologists did not know what to make of this extraordinary community. After several experiments and hours of observation, the ecologists found that the community represented a stage in succession amid an otherwise stable and well documented deep sea ecosystem. Since that discovery, several more whale carcasses have been found in the other ocean basins with similar organisms surrounding them. Figure 4-9 illustrates three stages in the succession of a whale fall community. Number 1. The disturbance that causes this kind of succession begins when a large whale, such as a blue or fin whale, dies and sinks to the normally barren ocean floor. The whale carcasses attracts a host of scavengers and decomposers, including amphipods, hagfishes, and sharks that feast on the decaying meat. Within a year, most of the whale's tissue have been eaten. The carcass then supports only a much smaller number of fish, crabs, marine snails, and other marine animals. The decomposition of the whale's body, however, enriches the surrounding sediment with nutrients, forming an oasis of sediment dwellers, including many different species of marine worms. Number 3. When only the whale skeleton remains, a third community moves in. Heterotrophic bacteria begin to decompose oils inside the whale's bones. In doing so, they release chemical compounds that serve as energy sources for the bacteria that are chemisynthetic autotrophs. The chemisynthetic bacteria, in turn, support a diverse community of mussels, limpets, snails, worms, crabs, clams, and other organisms that live in the bones and within the nearby sediments.